I welcome you for coming here this evening. I'm so pleased that you could all be with us tonight. It's a very special program. You know, when we started Craftsmen Online, it's to address so many different issues and it brings so much more to the knowledge and education of our brothers. Right Worship Brother Marino is a past Grand Treasurer. He has served on nearly every single committee that the Grand Lodge has offered. He was on the Education Committee from 1987 to 1993, when that merged into the Leadership and Education Services Committee. He's been on that committee since 1993 to the present, and he was chairman of that committee from 2002 to 2019. He's on the Membership Development Committee from 1991 to 1993. He's District Deputy Grand Master from the Queens Masonic District. And he's just been a brother that has advised Grand Masters and leaders of our craft for decades, including District Deputy Grand Masters and staff officers. And we're just so honored to have him here this evening just to present his knowledge, what he knows, to the rest of the brethren. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Right Worshipful Brother Marino Cesarini. Brother Marino.
Thank you, Right Worshipful Brother Steve. Good evening, my brothers. First, let me thank Right Worshipful Brother Steve for inviting me to be part of the Craftsmen Online this evening. I thought what we had discussed, Steve and I, on a number of occasions, something that's important to all the members of the craft. I think it's important for brothers to understand that Masonic etiquette and protocol is as necessary to this craft as is the ritual. Like our ritual, etiquette and protocol kind of defines who we are as Masons. The way we speak, the way we act, the way we dress, the way we present ourselves, not only to our brothers, but to people in the public, leaves an everlasting impression on their minds as to who Masons are and what we represent. So, I emphasize every time I talk on this that it is really important for the newer members, the younger members, and a lot of the older members to really take that etiquette and ritual booklet. And again, it's not that difficult to get. Grand Lodge has them, in stock, and give them to the new brothers when they become Masons, so they can have some sort of understanding of what Masonry is all about. Tonight, I'm going to speak about etiquette and protocol when it comes to the visit of the district deputy, or when you're going to have the deputy grand master or grand master present, whether it be at a tiled meeting or at a social function or whatever. It's important that we do or show the proper etiquette and protocol at all times, and especially when you have these individuals present in your lodge room. But before I speak on that, let me start with just some maybe 4 or 5 basic etiquette and protocols that I've gone to many lodges and I see it slowly diminishing. And he rises, comes under the sign of fidelity, speaks to the master, not to the individual brother, and he stays as such until he is finished and sits down. We see this becoming a little bit lax in a lot of lodges. We also office. What I see a lot of people still doing is that when we do the Pledge of Allegiance, like we just did now, you will see brothers still staying on the sign of fidelity. You don't stay on the sign of fidelity. Your right hand over your heart, just like you would at any civil function. And if you're a veteran, we now have the right to give a hand salute without being covered and being indoors. So you should, the brother should be aware of this here at all times. The altar, again, the altar should never be draped. I've gone to lodges where I've seen it being draped by other than the apron cloth. No flag of any nationality should drape that altar. The only draping on that altar should be either the lodge cloth or cloth when it's in mourning. Right? The Holy Bible should always be open, nothing on top of it. And again, I've seen people put stuff on top, another book on top of the Bible, and I tell them never. So again, there are certain little things that we should look at that are normal in every lodge. Aprons are to be worn on the outside of your jacket, not inside. The only time this worn inside is when you have a cutaway or morning suit. The title brother, again, we're getting more and more lax with that in lodges. Hey, Steve, how are you? Hey, Robert, how are you? Hey, Rich, how are you? What happened to the title brother? I mean, it's nice when you use the right worshipful, right? Most worshipful. But what's the only title that's really important in this fraternity? That's brother. Why are we getting away from using it? Why aren't we reinforcing it and insisting that it be used? We're getting laxical, and that takes away from the craft and what we stand for and how we act and do. The final thing I'm going to talk about on general is the master's hat, the top hat. That's my pet peeve, my brothers. Okay, because more and more lodges, you go into lodges, no one is wearing the hat. The top hat or the master's hat, whatever you want to call it, is the symbol of authority of who? The master of that lodge, as is the gavel. You look at any Masonic ring that's a past master's ring or whatever. What are the two symbols that are on it? The master's hat and the gavel. I don't want to hear, oh, my hair's going to get messed up if I wear a hat, or I don't look good in this hat. It doesn't fit right. The master's hat is the symbol of the authority of that individual. And there's only X amount of people who can wear it. The master of the lodge, the district deputy, the deputy grand master, or the grand master. No one else is entitled to wear that hat. Right? The individual sitting in the east, the deputy the district deputy, the deputy, and the grand master. It should be worn at all times. The only thing if you look in our etiquette and protocol booklet, the only thing we put in there was that if during business, conducting business, you want to take it off at the start, do so. But in the opening, the closing, it should always be worn. Also, degree work. When you do the degree, any degree, the master must wear the hat at all times. No ends, ifs, or buts about it. No excuses. It's part of our ritual. Right? So again, those are the pet peeves that I wanted to bring up front because again, we're getting lax with them in a lot of the lodges that I've attended, and we got to start reinforcing them. So let's not go to etiquette and protocol when it comes to the DD, the Deputy Grand Master, and the Grand Master. First, who determines what the protocol is for that evening? Right? If it's a regular lodge meeting, the master of the lodge determines the protocol. If he wants someone to sit in the east with him, it's his prerogative. If he wants to have someone escorted in, it's his prerogative. If he wishes to, give grand honors, again, it's his prerogative. He sets protocol for the evening. On the night of the DD visit, the DD sets the protocol. If he wants something or someone individual to sit in the east or be escorted in, that's his prerogative. And we're going to get to the order of entrance later. But again, who sets the prerogative? When the deputy grand master or the grand master is invited to a large function or a public function, it is the grand master or the deputy grand master, whoever is the highest ranking individual there, who through his deputy grand marshal or grand marshal will determine what the protocol is. Now, if you look in the 24-inch gauge on page 50, I think it's 57, 55, you have in there the grand marshal's protocol, which is part of the 24-inch gauge. And it helps guide the individuals when they have the deputy grand master or the grand master present. So it's something that should be looked at. So those are the individuals who determine the protocol for that evening. Now remember, the Deputy Grand Master and the Grand Master has the prerogative of making a lot of changes. The Deputy Grand Master is limited to any changes he can really make on there. All right. So how do we prepare? What's the protocol for preparing for the Grand Master? And we'll start with the Grand Master and go down to the District Deputy Grand Master, because when we talk about the Grand Master, the procedures are basically the same, whether it's the Grand Master or the Deputy Grand Master, with a few variants. So let's talk about the proper etiquette and protocol when you're going to have the Grand Master or the Deputy Grand Master in your lodge. The first thing that the masters, and again, this should really be for the masters to understand and to help them, because they're the ones who basically send out the material. If you look in the 24-inch gauge, all right, pages 67 and 68, you have the sheets that are necessary to fill out, to send to the Deputy Grand Marshal or the Grand Marshal, inviting the Deputy Grand Master or the Grand Master to the lodge. They have to be filled out. They have to be sent to the Grand Marshal or Deputy Grand Marshal. He will get back to you whether it's been approved and whatnot. Once he sends it back to you, you can make up a program, you can make up a flyer, but before you publish it, before you send it out, who does it go to? It should go to the Deputy Grand Marshal or the Grand Marshal, whoever, again, is the highest rank that's being invited, and they should approve it. Don't make the mistake that a number of lodges have done. They get the approval that the Grand Master is coming to visit, or the Deputy Grand Master. They make up a program. They go out, they get it published, they get this, they get it sent out, and all of a sudden the Grand Marshal or Deputy Grand Marshal calls and tell them, that's not the protocol that we're going to use. Right? You're not going to be able to do this. We don't want to do this. So again, before you send anything out, make sure that the proper protocol is set, that you get the approval of the Grand Marshal or Deputy Grand Marshal as to what the Deputy Grand Master or Grand Master wants for that evening. Right? So that's the first step you're going to have to do. Again, they should review the 24-inch gauge. Page 55 starts the Grand Marshal's protocol booklet, and go over some of the material in there. For example, right? If you look at the material there when you invite the Grand Master, how would he determines what delegations, right? At most Grand Master and Deputy Grand Master visits, all right, the only delegations he's going to want is basically the Grand Master, the Deputy Grand Master, the past Grand Masters, his elected Grand Line, and the District Deputy Grand Master of that district. Everybody else will be introduced in the lodge room as a group or whatever, right? So if you have the intentions of doing a large number of delegations, you're limited to which ones you can do on the night of the district deputy, on the night of the Deputy Grand Master or Grand Master's visit. On all other occasions, all right, the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master are not involved in delegation and escorted into lodge in accordance to the order of entrance. Right? If the Grand Master or the Deputy Grand Master is not present, the order of precedence or the order of entrance, and we will discuss that in a little while, is the way it goes. Right? And we will go over that because there seems to be some confusion as to who, what, and when people come in. Right? If you have the Grand Master, the Master will introduce the Grand Marshal. The Grand Marshal will come in. He will announce the Grand Master. He will go out. The door will be left open. He will go out, And the minute the Grand Master comes into the room, what should every brother do? Come under the sign of fidelity. Automatically. The minute the Grand Master enters the doorway or enters that lodge room, every brother comes under the sign of fidelity. Now, one thing to remember, the only time this is done is when the Grand Master comes in. If the Deputy Grand Master comes in, if the district, you do not come under the sign of fidelity when he enters the room. Even if it's a night where the Grand Master is not there and the Deputy Grand Master is there, you do not come under the sign of fidelity when he enters the room. Protocol dictates that that is only done for the Grand Master when he enters a lodge room. If you're
Right,
close,
Worship Brother Marino, can I ask you a quick question?
yes,
If you're at an open lodge and you're not wearing aprons and the Grand Master is being escorted in, do the brothers come to fidelity or no fidelity?
no, if you're not clothed, you do not come to the sign of fidelity.
And that's the same thing. And that's the same thing. Is that correct for during a prayer, for example? If you're not wearing your apron, you do not come to the sign of fidelity.
You not come under the sign of fidelity. We come under the sign of, I mean, look, let's be realistic. If you come under the sign of fidelity and you're a brother and you're not clothed, no one's going to say anything. You know, realistically, it's a symbol of respect. But no, if you're not clothed, you should, you know, have enough. And unfortunately, you know, we do it out of habit, my brothers. We do it out of habit. We're so accustomed to come under that sign of fidelity, you know, when we're clothed or when we say a prayer, that you can go somewhere and almost automatically the individual Mason will come under the sign of fidelity for respect. And I've seen people jump all over that individual for doing that. Why? He is not doing anything really wrong. He is basically showing respect, the respect that he should be showing. But we as Masons should teach other brothers and other Masons that if you are not clothed, you do not come under the sign of fidelity. Right? So, you know, that's a basic thing that we try and teach and whatever. But again, it's important to understand that, again, the Grand Master has certain things accorded to him, and that's one of them. He does, you know, you only come under the sign of fidelity when he enters the room. Do me a favor. Make sure that the masters, especially, or whoever the MC is, knows how to introduce whoever they're introducing, whether it be the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master, a guest speaker. It is embarrassing. And especially, think about it. I always try and tell brothers to think about this in the sense that if they were a civilian, if you will, visiting a lodge room during a function, and you see all these men dressed up in tuxedos, regalia, they really look sharp, right? All of a sudden, they start the program. They don't know how to pronounce the individual. Here's a man who is, let's say, the Grand Master or the District Deputy Grand Master, whatever, and they can't pronounce his name. What's that tell you? Hey, I guess he's really not that important if the guy doesn't know how to pronounce his name. He's supposed to be the high mukima. If they don't know where the guy sits, you know, they scramble around for every time they're doing something. They're scrambling around. Again, be prepared. Have an agenda. If you don't know how to pronounce his name, pronounce it phonetically. Write it down phonetically so you can spell. And this goes through for the Tyler and the junior deacon if he's the junior deacon if you know, if it's a Tile meeting or whatnot. It's embarrassing not to know how to pronounce an individual's name. Take the time to look and prepare yourself. Right? So here again, the last speaker, when the Grand Master is there, and again, whoever the highest ranking officer is, who's the last one to speak? The highest ranking individual. The only time that we allow that not to happen is If for some reason, let's say you have someone receiving an award that night, and you ask, let's say, the Grand Master or the Deputy Grand Master or the District Deputy, whoever, will you relinquish your prerogative and allow Brother Robert Gale to be the last speaker? 99% of the time, we're going to say yes. Unless you got an ego that's a mile wide. If the man is being honored, why would you not allow him to be the last one to speak? Now, again, with the Grand Master, again, it's customary, and he really should speak last. But anyone else, really, why not? If an individual is there that's being honored, relinquish your prerogative for the evening and let him speak last. Right? And again, make sure they know how to introduce the Grand Master or whoever. All right? The most worshipful, blah, 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 blah. Grand Master of Masons of the state of New York. The Grand Master of Masons in the state of New York. All right? So please. And not under the escort of or any of that. Again, the public meetings, it basically holds the same procedure and whatnot. It's something that we should always look at. Banquets, again, where they're going to see. Does Grand Master or whoever is the higher ranking individual, does he want a what do you call it again, a head table? Sometimes they don't. Right? So again, have all this information prepared so that you know what you're doing and when it's doing. You must know the proper procedures. And like I said, we're going to go over the order of entrance in a little while. Again, with the Deputy Grand Master, it's basically the same procedure. Now, on an evening that you do have the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master, the District Deputy, a number of the Grand Line and whatever. And if it's a tiled meeting, one thing I've seen as of late, which is really wrong, who's the only person that does not seek admittance? The Grand Master. All right. If on an evening you have a number of these brothers, high echelon individuals present, all right, and especially on a night when you have the Grand Master, chances are you'll have the Deputy Grand Master there, the Grand Warden, Junior Grand Warden, Senior Grand Warden, the Grand Treasurer, Grand Secretary, the whole ball of wax there. All right. The only person who does not seek admittance is the Grand Master. That includes the Deputy Grand Master. All right. At a tiled meeting, the only person who comes in at the end and introduces the Grand Master to Grand Marshal. I've seen the Deputy Grand Marshal be asked to come in when it's time for the Deputy Grand Marshal and introduce the Grand Marshal and come out. At a tile meeting, they were all outside, it's tiled. When they announce the Deputy Grand Master, the Deputy Grand Master seeks admittance. All right, and the Deputy Grand Marshal escorts him in. Some people may not agree with that, then change what was voted at Grand Lodge years ago when the etiquette and protocol was presented, and those back then, before it was in the 24-inch gauge, it used to be every year they used to put this out as the protocol to be followed. All right. So other than that, on the night of the Deputy Grand Master, everything follows the same. Right? Now, past Grand Masters. Past Grand Masters come in at a certain time. They must always be escorted in. They should always be escorted to the east and given grand honors. If there's a seat available up there for a past Grand Master, he should be invited to a seat in the east, if there is a seat available. And again, when the Grand Master and Deputy Grand Master is there, if he wants to set certain parameters as far as the protocol, that's their prerogative. All right, but all other times, a past Grand Master comes in, he should be escorted to East, being given Grand Honor, and should be invited to a seat in the East. There's a thing that most people do that is wrong, and most of the times it's no one's fault because we don't always have an honorary past Grand Master, right? And in this case, we do. We have Right Worshipful, Most Worshipful Bob Stack, who is an honorary past Grand Master. When he is introduced, he is never introduced as an honorary past Grand Master. He is introduced as a past master. He has the same rights and prerogatives accorded to him as a Grand Master. Right? People may not like that, but, and I'll read it directly for you. Honorary past Grand Master should be treated in all respects as other past Grand Masters. The word honorary should never be used in these announcements, nor in the Master's introduction in the East. Right? He is considered a past Grand Master. The next thing we're going to go is here's where we get a little bit, not confusing, but where there always seems to be a little bit of conflict. When we have the district deputy's official visit, there always seems to be an issue of who's escorted in, when, and where. Now, in the 24-inch gauge, right, we do have on page 64 and 65 the order of entrance and the order of presence. Now, every district deputy, the last session we had before the COVID and back in 2018 when we had the training up at Utica, every district deputy Grand Master that came through was given the etiquette and the order of entrance and the order of protocol cards. They were given enough for every master and officer and officers in his district. It folds up, it should be kept in their wallet, and it should be looked at when they're worried about it. Now, everybody automatically goes to the order of entrance. Do yourself a favor. We found over the years of doing the training that they had a difficult time understanding the order of entrance, and it was easier for them to understand the order of precedence. Now, the order of precedence basically goes from the highest ranking to the lowest. And for some reason, maybe it's because most of us were in the military at some point in time or worked in a corporation where you have a pecking order or hierarchy that is easier to understand or remember the highest ranking than it is to remember the lowest ranking. So when you set up the order of entrance to come into a lodge, look at the order of precedence, and you'll see that the first person who's the highest ranking individual is who? The Grand Master. So you put him at the top of the list, you know he's going to be the last one to come in. The next individual would be who? The Deputy Grand Master. Now here's where we get always confusion that people say they don't understand or why. Number 3 on the list of the hit parade is the District Deputy Grand Master on an official visit to a lodge in his district and in the absence of the Grand Master or Deputy Grand Master. Now, does everybody understand that there? Because here's where they get confused. First of all, if the Grand Master or Deputy Grand Master is present at or on the night of the District Deputy Grand Master's official visit, is it an official visit? Yes. But does he represent the Grand Master that night? No. Because who's present? The Grand Master or the Deputy Grand Master? So the District Deputy Grand Master can't represent them if they're in the room. They represent themselves. So if they are present, he drops down a notch, number 14. Right? So let's make believe that on the night of the official DD visit, he is the highest ranking officer there. So he is the first, he's the last to come in. After the, if someone there is present that is a permanent member, we try and train this in our district. We do it as a more of a training procedure so brothers can see it. Right? On the night of the official visit, we know that the district deputy is going to be the last one to come in. Right? After the district deputy, as a past grand treasurer, I would come in, and then the staff officer, and so forth. Now, there'll be nights on one DD visit that will go that route. There'll be another night where I relinquish that prerogative and have the staff officer come in after I enter, so that the brothers are told, okay, even though I outrank him in the order of precedence in the pecking order, you can relinquish that prerogative, and he as a staff officer can come in. You've got to teach the masters the proper order of entrance so they know, right? After the after the district deputy comes in, and again you have the grand treasurer or the past masters that come in, even though they are higher ranking than the district deputy, on that night, he outranks the elected Grand Line officers because he is representing the Grand Master. He represents the Grand Master. There's a little bit of a word glitch there, all right? He's always his representative. But on the night of his official visit, he represents the Grand Master. He is, for all intents and purposes, the Grand Master for that evening. He's there to do what the Grand Master is required to do. Check the books of the lodges. They were supposed to, years ago, many years ago, okay, Grand Masters were supposed to visit all their lodges, collect the taxes or the dues and so forth. That was in the 1850s and 1860s and 70s. That was handed over to the district deputies to do that job. Right? So, in an order of entrance, if he, on the night of his official visit, he comes in last. Now, if it's not an official visit, like I said, the district deputy drops down to number 14. Right? So what happens is that, again, the Grand Master comes in, the Deputy Grand Master, the Senior Grand Warden, Junior Grand Warden, the Grand Treasurer, the Grand Secretary, right? The past Grand Masters, then the past Grand Treasurers, right? You go all the way down to number 14, where now the District Deputy comes in after all the permanent members and current Grand Lodge officers have come in. It sounds confusing. It isn't. That's why I said you have to follow the protocol card, and they have to understand it. Right? And if you follow the order of precedence and just list them in the order that they're listed there, and then when they bring them in reversal order, it is simpler to do it that way, and it's easy to understand. We found this out as any brother who's been on the education committee over the number of years, and when we do the training, we found that it's easier for them to understand it in that format, and that's the way we have tried to do it. The order of entrance, it doesn't diminish the authority of the district deputy. Right? Some people feel that by the district deputy not coming in or being always considered the highest ranking, All right, like hypothetically, if the district deputy is not there on the night of his official visit, does he still represent the Grand Master? Yes, he always represents the Grand Master. He never has to seek admittance, right? He doesn't have to be invited up to the east. He can walk up there at any given time. He still has the right to take the gavel if he deems it necessary to do so. It doesn't diminish his authority as the district deputy because he's not the last one to come in. Right? If it's a night that is not his official visit, and again, we do this in our district every so often just to show the brothers, on the night that is not his official visit, I'll be the last one to come in. And we'll explain to the brothers why this is being done. Right? And you have to make them understand. It doesn't diminish his authority. It takes nothing away. All his rights are still in place. Finally, the thing is the seating protocol. Where and who sits where. We found a number of years back, we had a major thing at a homecoming for a Grand Line officer, not in our district. We were in the Manhattan district, and there was a 45-minute delay because unfortunately, no one took the time to decide that there was going to be so many people at this homecoming. No one knew who was sitting where. So we put up a chart. We made up a chart. The district deputies were given it. They were asked to make up copies. If anyone wants it, just email me. I will send it to you, or any of these copies of these paperwork electronically. But it basically sets up most of the scenarios that you're going to encounter when you have the district deputy visit, or you have the Grand Master or Deputy Grand Master visit, where they should sit. Right? There's nothing more embarrassing than having individuals telling someone, get up, you're sitting in the wrong chair, move over to that other chair or whatever. It shouldn't happen. If someone's not sitting where it's supposed to be sitting, hopefully no one is going to sit at the right of the worshipful master if he knows that he's not if the district deputy or the deputy or the grand master is there, you know that's where they're going to sit. Right? But unfortunately, you see people jockeying around as to where they're going to sit. So again, here's a chart for you, giving you the situation as to where they sit. Now you'll notice on this chart though, and people have asked why, technically when the district deputy grand master comes into the room, all right, or the grand master or deputy grand master, he basically runs the lodge for that evening. So he technically should be sitting in the master's chair. But like in most lodges or many lodges, he decides for the master to continue to run the program until it's his time to speak or do the Grand Master's message or whatever. So he sits to the right of the master. All right. When he is introduced, right, the master has to know that once he's introduced and hands the gavel to the district deputy or deputy grandmaster, he now shifts from the master's chair over to the chair to his right. And unfortunately, we've had it, I've seen it a number of times where the poor master has never been told or is not aware of this, and he stands there in front of the chair and whatnot, and he's got to be told move or shift. It should be automatic, right? So it's up to the brothers to be familiar with this here, and especially if you've got right worshipfuls in, your lodge, they should be guiding that master, especially on nights when you have one of these three individuals there to help them, because he may not know. So again, etiquette and protocol is an essential part of this fraternity. It's as necessary a part of this fraternity and knowing what and when to do it as it is the ritual, right? Doing the ritual, doing the floor work in the ritual, you must know it to give a good degree. When you have a DD visit, when you have the deputy grandmaster, it's essential you know the proper etiquette and protocol to follow. Even when you have a guest speaker, and again, it's in the blue booklet that we have there. Again, if you're going to invite someone to be a guest speaker in your lodge, again, there's a set protocol that should be followed. Right? You should escort him in. He should be sitting up in the east. He should be introduced. You should introduce some of his background, but you don't have to go. If we got a bio that's a mile long, forget it. Just pick out 2 or 3 highlights that make the brothers understand why he is qualified to be there and to speak on this evening. What qualifies him to tell you etiquette and protocol or Masonic law or whatever. Right? So again, there is proper etiquette and protocol for everything we do. The way we dress, to me, is, I've seen people going into lodge rooms now with t-shirts. All right. I was asked 3 years ago, the DD couldn't attend an individual being given his 50-year certificate, pin, and apron. So I was asked to go to this particular lodge to represent the district deputy. When I walked in there, I felt so bad for the 50-year recipient. Why? The master is in a sports jacket. The senior warden is in a tuxedo. The junior warden is in a suit. Brothers sitting on the sideline, no line out, dungarees. Guys with sneakers. Guys with a shirt. And this is a lodge down in the metropolitan area. Okay? Now, here's a brother who spent 50 years on the fraternity. You mean to tell me that you, as brothers, couldn't show him the courtesy of dressing the way you should dress and giving him the proper respect? Here again, etiquette and protocol is an essential part of this fraternity. The more we allow it to slip away from us, the more we lose of who we are as Masons. So it's up to the brothers to make a determination. I went through a lot of this here fast. There's more that we could go through. I'm not going to prolong it in case anyone has any questions, but it's up to us to make sure that we keep it the way it's supposed to be. It's just like the ritual. Years ago, you'd go to a lodge and everybody did great ritual. Today, let's be realistic let's be honest with ourselves. Not everybody does great ritual. We're becoming lazy and we're becoming, we feel that we can get away with a lot of things. We can't let that happen, my brothers. It's up to us to make sure that it doesn't happen and keep the fraternity where it's supposed to be. Right, worshipful brother Steve, I thank you again for allowing me to speak here this evening. Again, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I can.
Right, worshipful brother Marino, as always, thank you so much for your wonderful remarks, your years of experience shine through every time that anyone hears you talk, and I'm so honored that you are a friend of mine, and I have the opportunity to call you and to seek your advice, and you're one of those brothers that I could have went on for probably about a couple of hours reading your Masonic resume, from the chairman of the Commission of Appeals to the Brotherhood Foundation to, the Constitutions Committee chairman for a number of years. So your resumes are one of those resumes that just speaks volumes about all of your service to the craft, and we're indebted to you. I would just like to share very quickly before we ask if there are any questions that, I've traveled a bit around the jurisdiction, and I've seen, just different lodges address what they do with their visitors. And I was so impressed by one lodge in the Erie District, Harmony Lodge, whose senior Grand Deacon, excuse me, the senior deacon, I'm so used to calling everyone Grand, the senior deacon would approach every new visiting brother, whether they were the speaker as I was, or just anyone who was not part of the lodge, and they would have them fill out a card. The card would have their name, their rank or the title,
Right.
and then the worship master would get it and put it in his proper order. And when that lodge opened up, that worship master was able to go around the room welcoming those visiting brethren. He did not have to stand up and say, "Who are you? Who's that person?" And that worship master was welcoming his guests. And I was so impressed. And I think that all lodges should do something similar to that.
Well, what I did for our district in a number of years is I made up, delegation sheets with each lodge's name and logo of their particular thing on there. And brothers wanted, I can make it up for them. But we leave them out, and whenever their brothers do visit from different lodges, there's a delegation sheet out there for them to sign in with their name, what lodge, and what station they hold. It makes it a lot easier. I'm the secretary of the lodge. So again, it's a lot, it's easy for me to have that sheet and put it into the minutes book with the right spelling, the right lodge, the right name. And how much time does it take? It's putting out a sheet there for the visitors to sign in. So, and again, it's nice when the master gets the copy of that sheet and just, welcomes them to the lodge and has the proper name, the lodge, where they come from and so forth. So yeah, you're right. It is, every little thing helps if you do it right, to make our experience a little better for the brothers.
Right, Worship Brother Marino, once again, thank you so much. I want to let everyone know that I promise you that I will be confiscating all of Brother Marino's notes and that sitting chart, and we will make sure that it gets up on our craftsmenonline.com website, along with this video. So for those brothers that were not able to attend, certainly, but also for those brothers that are attending and wish to have some of those references that Brother Marino spoke about and pointed out, you'll be able to get a copy just by going to our Craftsmen Online website. Before I close out, I want to just say that this Sunday we have another special program, what we at Craftsmen Online called the Reading Room, which is basically a book club. If you go to craftsmenonline.com or on the Facebook page, you can get the open source chapter from one of Albert Mackey's books. And then on Sunday evening, there's going to be a very interesting conversation, discussion amongst brothers from all over the state. You don't have to read it before you step in and visit us. You don't have to say one word during the night, but you're going to find that you're going to be educated and entertained and enlightened by hearing some of your brothers from around the state talk about this Masonic reading. Once again, Brother Marino, thank you so much. Thank you all my brothers for attending. Spread the word. These are important lectures. These are important talks. And we'll look forward to getting the word out when Brother Marino will be back for the second of the 3 lecture series. Once again, Right Worship Brother Marino, thank you so much. Right Worship Brother Tom Carbone, Grand Chaplain, thank you as always. And thank you, my brothers. Be safe, be well. God bless you all.